Welcome back to the table. Today on MVM, I am bringing you the first look at a new game, Dead by Daylight, the board game. Now, a lot of people play Dead by Daylight, the video game, upon which this board game is based. The premise of the game is that you play as a team of survivors basically trapped in the finale of a horror movie. You know that scene where the villain is chasing down all of the heroes and they have to struggle to survive. Yes, there might be casualties along the way, but ultimately the heroes are trying to find a way to escape the villain, while the villain is trying to sacrifice them to the entity, this evil, abstract darkness that is basically controlling their actions. Now, this is a one versus many game. It takes that concept of the hunter versus the survivors. You will play the game with 4 survivors and 1 hunter. Now, that doesn't mean that this has to be a 5-player game. You can split up control of those 4 survivors however you want. Each one of the survivors is going to have a board that gives all of their information, and you're going to have on the other side a cheat sheet that shows you all of your different actions. So you're going to have that no matter who you're playing. Everyone is going to have a number of different perks that they can use that are unique to their character, and every villain is going to have a number of special abilities as well as perks that are unique to that villain. So the game is very asymmetric in that the group of survivors you're playing against one specific villain is going to make the game play out in a different way. The board itself is also double-sided, so you're going to see a little bit of a difference to those boards. Now, I've set up the game already here, including setting up the map, choosing the hunter character. I've chosen the doctor. You'll notice that this is an easy difficulty. They do go up quite a bit in difficulty, and there are quite a few different villains to choose from or hunters based on the ones that were in the video game. So you can play your favorite characters both on the villain side and on the hero side here. Now, you start with some perks that give your characters a little bit of unique abilities. If you want to play some different game modes, there's actually a deck of perk cards for both the heroes and the villains. And these perks can be used to make the game different. So you're always going to have 3 perks, but you can actually either randomly draw out these perks at the start of the game, every player being given 5 to choose from, or you can actually play a game where everyone selects their perks and reveals them to make the game very controllable, or you can kind of set up the game how you like to play it. If you want to just play it right out of the box, every character is kind of built with that specialty, and each character has a difficulty level as well. Now, when you're setting up the board, you're going to put your characters out in random locations by rolling this die, and you'll see each one of these locations represented by a box. Now, there's a lot of things on this map that you have to pay attention to. One are these tokens that are in each one of these rooms. These are props. These are the items that you're going to interact with. And you'll see here again, both the killer and the survivors have ways that they can interact with objects, and they're actually interacting with objects in different ways. You're also going to see a number of connecting movement points. These boxes indicate what movement card must be played in order to make that connection or make that move. And you're going to have a number of these. Each player is going to have 4 movement cards, 1 for every color. You're going to see some special movement spaces that look like they have squiggly lines surrounding them. These are actually special passages that only the villain can use. These are blocked off so players can't use them. So the villain is going to have a little bit more movement ability than the players do. This is also a little bit of a programming game. Each player is going to choose the card they're playing and set it out in front of them at the start of every turn to dictate where they're going to move to. The villain, the hunter, is going to get 2 cards, and they actually have a special card called Wait that allows them to stay where they are. The villain is trying to predict where the survivor characters might end up, and the survivors are trying to predict where the hunter might go, because they're going to get both of their actions after all of the survivors have done their turns. So there's a little bit of guessing and deduction here. The hunter wants to wound and capture the survivors and bring them to hooks, which they'll have to find mixed around these props. As they do that, they're going to be taking these sacrifice tokens off of players and placing them up here on the sacrifice track. If they ever fill up that sacrifice track, they've appeased the entity, they win the game. Meanwhile, the survivors are trying to find generators mixed in with these prop tokens. They're trying to find and start 4 generators before they can eventually find an exit and escape. If they find all 4 generators and then the exit, they can get out. However, there's a lot of obstacles they're going to have to face along the way. One of those being skill checks. There's dice here, and each player is going to get one of these dice, which you're going to use for skill checks. Now, there's only 1 failure on the dice side, which is pretty good, and there's 1 great success, which is that 6, which you'll notice there right there on the box that's kind of significant. If you get a great success, sometimes you'll get a better version of whatever you were trying to do. And if you get a failure, you'll automatically fail and you'll give the villain 1 blood token. These blood tokens are going to be collected both by the survivors and the hunter, and they're going to be spent on using your perks. Now, generally, these perks are going to give you some kind of bonus ability or special ability that breaks the normal rules of the game. But generally, like I said, everyone is trying to do their one particular objective, but the villain will complicate it, not only with their special power, but also with their actions. So let me explain. Now, at the start of the game, each player is going to get to reveal 1 token. So you'll start to kind of have an idea of maybe what you want to go for. If you're lucky, you might reveal a generator right off the bat. If you do, you know you now have a target to try to move to, but the hunter knows that you're going to be trying to move to that generator as well. Every time you move into a new room by playing one of those movement cards, you're going to get to reveal another one of those tokens, and you're going to get the chance to interact with it. Now, it's possible the card you played might not be useful. For example, if you're in a room that doesn't have a yellow and you play a yellow, which is vault, you're just stuck there. You kind of lose your ability to move. Meanwhile, the villain can always choose to wait and hope that maybe you move into their space. Pre-planning is really kind of the meat of the game. That's the hardest part, trying to predict whether they're going to go for those generators or not. Now, no matter where you end up, you'll get to interact with one of these items, and that is true for the villain as well. All the items can be interacted with according to this sheet. It tells you what every single thing in the game does. Some of these spaces are going to let you hide from the villain. Some of these spaces are going to allow you to draw items from the item deck. Some of these are going to allow you to move. You'll see crows out here that allow you to take extra moves. And then, of course, you'll see the generators. Every time you move into a space with a generator, you can try to activate that generator by rolling the skill die. If you succeed, you get to place a little generator token in that space. As soon as there are 3 generator tokens, you actually complete that generator and you move it up here to the generator space, showing that you've completed one of the 4 generators. Of course, you'll have to find the exit, which you can see right here on this, and 3 other generators before you can actually escape, which is going to be more difficult than it seems, because if the villain ever catches you, they can wound you. You take one of these little wound bases and place it on your survivor, indicating that they are wounded. Now, once somebody is wounded, on another turn, the villain can actually capture them and carry them into a place with a hook. If they're already in a space with a hook, say that these were switched, they can just hook them immediately. If they do, they're going to take that survivor's token and place it up there on that survivor track. If they're not in the right space, for example, as this was originally set up, they're going to have to carry that character over to the hook, which they can do. But based on how far they travel, the hero is going to get to roll these dice. And if they have a great success on any one of those rolls, they're going to actually escape and be left in whatever space they were left in. Now, if somebody is hooked, this is another concept that you're going to see in the games, and they replicated that here in the board game. But you can actually come and rescue another player from the hook as an action, in which case you both get free movement away, and then the hunter is going to have to come and capture you again. So that is going to foil your plans every single time. You might accidentally end up moving into the same room as the hunter moved into without knowing that that's where the hunter was going to go. Your job as the survivor is to try to guess that, and also not just to run straight to the generator. It's maybe better to look at all of the different props, try to find more items from the item deck, try to find ways to collect more of these blood tokens so that you could use more of your perks. You kind of want to set yourself up for that big push at the end where you can actually get the generators. Because if you sit there trying to just turn the generator on, of course, the hunter's just going to come over there and wound you and capture you, or they'll use all their special powers. Remember, they have passive abilities and special abilities, like the Doctor's Spark, which is going to give everyone nearby madness. Every one of the hunters is going to have some special tokens that interact with their special power that's going to change up the game in a different way. So, for example, the Doctor's ability to give them madness, it makes them roll this danger die every time they do a skill check, which gives them another chance for failure and another chance for the Doctor to get another one of those blood points. So you have to kind of know what the villain is going to be like. Luckily, they give little guides on every one of these hunter sheets that talk about how to use that particular hunter, as well as, of course, all of the actions you need to know being printed right on the sheet. So I think as a game that is a conversion of a video game, they really put a lot of thought and effort into replicating that tense feeling by that programming element. you don't just get to wait and see what your other teammates do or what the villain does before you make your turn. So you can have some really cool moments where you reveal and you get that, ooh, he's going the opposite direction. Or maybe not. Maybe you walk right into a space with them. Maybe you try to hide in one of the lockers and yet the villain comes, you fail your skill check, and the hunter captures you anyway. So all of those real tense moments, that feeling of kind of trying to sneak around and complete your objective while being hunted, it feels very present in this game. They were obviously big fans of the source material, and they really condensed down a lot of what you could do in that game into the board game with these action cards. And the fact that really you're just trying to move around and collect items, it seems so simple, but it's actually very difficult, because chances are if you don't play smart and play as a team, you'll walk right into the hunter's traps and he'll be getting a lot of those sacrifice points. So that is Dead by Daylight. The game is on crowdfunding, so you can take a look at the crowdfunding site to see what all the final components are going to look like. Of course, I've just been using these 3D printed minis here. Nothing you see is actually final, so it's all subject to change. I know that these wound tokens are going to look a lot different in the final version. They're going to be colored even as well. So take a look at that page. But as always, if you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. I'll do my best to answer any questions you have about this game. I'd love to talk about it. I am a big fan of the Dead by Daylight video game as well. So thank you so much for watching today. And as always, until I see you again, keep having fun at the table.
Congratulations, you got to the end of one of our videos. Now, if you want more practice, just click on the video over here. It's another video. You might not have seen it yet, so click on it. If you don't want to do that, at least click on the subscription button below. That always helps us. And if you want notifications, please ring that bell.